Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we want to take a quick look at the OCG metagame report number 1 with the first weeks of the new ban list being in the books here. We have no new releases, so the next set is releasing at the end of the month. That will be very interesting to see what changes then. Last week we have seen that Fire King was very dominant. It is still very dominant, but we can also see Snake Eye here once again on the list with 9.0%. There was a tournament in which Snake Eye topped, I think, the first 5 or 6 spots. So I think this is why they are back in here. Voiceless Voice, we still have it here. Branded also was second place last week, is still here. And then we can see Rescue is once again being on the pie chart. It was gone before. And then Flo and Reese, which is not really surprising, but we will talk about this in a second here. Let's just scroll down. We have Fire Kings here talking about the use of Artifact Scythe. So this is the first time I have seen this, but obviously it's not that stupid. You have the, I think it's called Artifact Ductor, which you can use to search out or set your Artifact Scythe, which if you activated this, your opponent can then no longer special summon in that turn. And as you can see here, they have used the Kirin to destroy the Artifact Scythe on the field, which obviously works, but now they are using the Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon to set up the scythe. So after you have set the scythe on the field, you can send it to the graveyard with the Diabelsta, the Black Witch, which to summon her, obviously to special summon her, you need to send one card you control. So if you place that on your field with the deck die, you can then send it to the graveyard, and then you can reset it with the Flamberge Dragon in the spell and trap zone, and on your opponent's turn via quick effect, which means you can also dodge an imperm, you can special summon the Artifact Scythe to the field, thereby blocking your opponent from playing the game. Basically a very annoying tech, very toxic if you ask me, but yeah, I think that is just how this deck is. Really strong, really insane. And still at the top here, I have talked about this being like on the way to tier 0 last week. I think you might still see this. It remains to be seen what will happen with the new set, where there will be new Light Sound support. I think Voiceless Voice will also get a new support. Fire King won't get new support. They will also get a new card here, the Consort something, but it's not in the next set. So we will have to see how strong Fire King will be after the release. I think also Snake Eye with some new support and stuff like Goblin Riders, though that will probably not be very impactful. So Fire King still at the top here with the Artifact Scythe tech. And then we have a Snake Eye coming back once again. Not really surprising here, because obviously Snake Eye and Snake Eye Fire King is basically the same deck, you could say. They are not really different, only in the sense that you have the Fire King package here, but you can also take a look at the extra deck. They have once again started to play a big synchro package with the Formula Synchron, Baron and Borreload, which I think you can get onto the field, all of them at your first turn, which is quite nice. They are obviously playing a bit more of the Snake Eye cards, I call it counter trap, but it is not really a counter trap. It's more of like a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend type of trap, so that you can target another card on the field with this when you have your Diabelsta on the field. I think that is the condition, and then negate the card. And then you also have this other card here, which I am blanking on the name right now, but this allows you to basically set one Diabelsta in your spell and trap zone, so you can use it afterwards. They obviously also play the Temple here, which they can search with their Populous. So they also play basically the exact same extra deck, minus the synchro stuff, obviously, as does the Fire King deck. So you can see there's not a big difference in these decks. The only difference being the Fire King engine versus you could say the synchro engine here with the set synchron, and then also bigger Snake Eye package. They also, at least this list here, has opted to play only 2 Populous. We have seen 3 Populous before, which made this deck even more expensive. There were also some lists playing triple Flamberge, so you need triple Diabelsta, which is expensive. The Flamberge is getting more expensive. Populous, we do not know at this point whether it will be expensive. It's expected to be a secret rare, but could also, maybe it's also common. I mean, Per Lily and Sleepy Memory were also common, and nobody expected that. So you never know. You have triple Wanted, very expensive, and then the Bonfire. So this is probably the most expensive deck on the market. And then we obviously still have a voiceless voice here, which will be very, very interesting. I'm very interested in seeing how the rarities will be for this release in the TCG, as I myself, I'm not 100% sure whether I will continue to ride the Fire King Snake Eye train because of the high prices of the Bonfire, or I might switch to something like the voiceless voice deck. I'm normally not a big fan of ritual decks, but I like this one very, very much. Still in the meta here, even though it has not the best Fire King matchup. So what I can see here in the future is when Fire King and the old Snake Eye thing gets hit on the ban list, then the voiceless voice deck might be better, might go up in the rankings, but also important and very interesting to see what will happen with this deck post the next set at the end of the month, because there will be new support cards in it for the voiceless voice deck. And we can see in the side deck, that's I think what they are talking about. They are playing obviously the anti-spell fragrance against Snake Eyes and Fire Kings, very effective. And then they're also going for different dimensional ground, which makes sense. You can then send every monster to the graveyard, which is very like devastating for the Snake Eye cards and also for the Fire King cards, because you need all of the stuff in the graveyard. For the voiceless voice deck itself, they also want stuff in the graveyard. So for example, you don't want your Novox to be not in the graveyard, obviously, though the advantage of playing the different dimensional ground, I think this is what the card is called, over cards like the D-Shifter, is that obviously the D-Shifter is way more flexible. So if your opponent goes first, then you can just drop the D-Shifter, and this one is a trap, so you can only basically side this in when you are going first. But the advantage is that this only lasts for one turn, so you can activate this on your opponent's turn, the Snake Eyes turn, or the Fire King's turn, and then all the monsters will get banished. So you're basically interrupting them from playing their turn, so they have to pass over. And then when it's your turn again, your monsters will not go to the graveyard, so that it's not as big of an interruption for yourself as would be a dimensional shifter. Obviously, you could also use some cards in your turn. You might have established a board and then activate your dimensional ground here, and then maybe lose your interruptions if they kill your ritual Omni Negate here. It's obviously also a win more card, because if you can establish a strong board turn one with voiceless voice, which going first, this is really strong, then you might not really need the different dimensional ground, but it definitely ensures your win. Remains to be seen how good this deck can keep up with the fire decks when we get all the stuff in the set on the 2nd of February, which I'm very excited about. I'm also very interested in seeing which rarities this thing here will get, because we will need a lot of cards for this. We need 2 of the ritual boss monster, we need 1 of the new Sour Harvest, then we need triple Zafira, which I can imagine this being a secret rare, or the Novox, which you need multiple copies of, and then also the barrier here. You can get away with 1 of the ritual summon cards here, so remains to be seen. The Herald is quite expensive, around 17 euros here in the European market. And then we have Branded, which we have seen last week, once again with the 60 card list, with the grass tech here, and also the Shadow fusion tech that we already have spoken about last week. And then you can see the last deck here, which does not really surprise me, is Floowandereeze. We can already see why this is in here. They are playing triple dimensional fissure because they can, obviously, and also playing dimension shifter. I think we can expect this deck to rise up in popularity also in the TCG, because we still have triple dimension shifter. So every D-Shifter deck will become more popular. This is true for Floowandereeze as well as Exorcister and Vanquish Soul, though I think Vanquish Soul is maybe the deck that is the best when it comes to the pure engine. So the Floowandereeze engine versus the Exorcister engine versus the Vanquish Soul engine. I think Vanquish Soul is definitely the best one of these. But Floowandereeze, definitely a very cheap anti-meta option for all of you who want maybe to play the next format in the TCG but don't want to invest a lot of money. Then you can, I have calculated this on Card Market, it's insane. You can get this complete core here for 27 euros. I already have the shifters and then stuff like the Imperm, so I have the hand traps already, and I also had the pots, but everything else is so cheap in this deck. Obviously, it depends a bit on whether you want to play a triple tactics thrust, which can be quite nice, because if you get interrupted on your first turn, you might be able. So let's say you summon your Robina and they Imperm your Robina, or they Ash your Robina or Effect Veiler, for example. In this case, we need to imagine that we are getting Ash or Effect Veiler here. because then we could use the triple tactics thrust to set the Harpy's Featherstorm, and because we still have a Winged Beast, we could activate this on our opponent's next turn, negating all the monster effects. So it's basically a pass over again to me as a Fallen Reefs player's thing. So yeah, very interesting to see how like popular this deck will be in our meta here. Obviously, if we see a lot of these counter meta decks like Fallen Reefs, Exorcist, or all these anti-graveyard decks, then decks like Voiceless Voice might be better because they are not as negatively impacted by these tech decks as are the Snake Eye and the Fire King Snake Eye deck. But this all remains to be seen. Very interesting trends here, and I'm super excited in seeing how this will play out in the TCG. Let me know in the comments what you think of this meta here in the OCG. I think this looks kind of okay. This looks like it could be enjoyable playing in this meta. Fire King is not too dominant, even though you could also like add up Fire King and Snake Eye because they are basically somehow the same deck, kind of, you could say. So there's definitely a dominant player here, but I think you can still get away with a lot of different like decks here. I also think that over in the TCG we will have kind of a varied format, even though obviously the Fire Snake Eye stuff will be at the top, and then I think we will also see Rescue Ace more at the bottom because this is definitely worse in comparison to Snake Eye and Fire King. Let me know what you think. Thanks for being here. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one.